Well, this is Leah Freemouth from Virginia Community Capital. I'm here as a production partner with this great group that is bringing you this Refocus and Rebuild series. This is the fifth session that we've had this year. But before I kick it over to Cindy to explain, the topic and the flow of the day, just want to let everybody know that we are recording this event. And so just be mindful of that, and that because we're recording it, it will be available after this event for your use and sharing as needed. So with that, I will kick it over to Cindy.
Thank you, Leah. We want to welcome everyone to this series today. We've had a very successful series, and we are looking forward to hearing from Andrew Darlington today. I would like to thank all of our partners that are participating in this event. And at this time, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Andrew Darlington. So Andrew was born in Memphis. He attended a large private Christian school. He moved to the Tri-Cities when he received a basketball scholarship to King College in Bristol, Tennessee. He received a business administration degree with an emphasis in accounting and has been licensed as an insurance agent since 1997. He was with Heritage Insurance Group. He was instrumental in the purchase of Bennett and Edwards Insurance Company. And in 2009, Andrew felt called to operate differently and decided to leave Heritage and open Veritas Risk Management and Insurance Companies. Andrew wanted to structure his insurance agency in a way he felt that it would truly bring people to the glory of God. And Veritas has seen growth each year since opening, and Andrew now has 9 full-time employees. So we look forward to hearing from him. I wanted to just remind you that we do have everyone muted today, but we welcome your questions. If you'd like to type those in the chat, we will be monitoring those, and Andrew will be answering those questions at the end of the session. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew.
Great, thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here in a second, but I will try to answer the questions as we go through. So go ahead and post what you've got. I'll try to answer them. Some of them I'll answer as we go through, some I'll wait till the end. Usually at each section, I'll try to do that. What I like to tell people, there's no stupid questions, just stupid people. So go ahead and ask what you want to. I'm just kidding. I like to have fun on these things. So let me go ahead and get my screen shared, and we'll get going on this. Let's see. There we go. Everybody can see data breach and mine. Jonathan, if you'll nod your head so you can see it. Good. Okay. So we'll start this pretty quick. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So I'll skip that because that's about me. We do have a podcast, the Insurance Answer Guy. You can see it on a bunch of different places. But if you need information about insurance, we try to cover the gamut, and a lot of this will be cut up in snippets on it as well. We have 2 locations. We got one office in Johnson City, one in Kingsport, and we do every type of insurance, personal and business. If it ends in insurance, we do it. You name it, we can do it. This is my family here, and I'll have pictures. I like pictures on these things, so I'll have pictures throughout of each one, starting at the youngest and then going up to my wife. So there we go. So what I'd like to do is, so I can do a better job of giving examples and things that would happen, if you don't mind, in the chat box, if you will put your industry that you're in, or in the question answer, I don't care, put it in there, and that way I'll go ahead and be able to have some a little bit better idea. Where's my chat box? Hope I can see the chat box somewhere. I do not see where it is. Well, put it in the question and answer then, because I can't see the chat box. Put those in the questions and answers if you don't mind, and then I can do that. So, okay, so what is cyber? What is a cyber incident? So you talk about cyber liability. What is a cyber incident? This is it. It's basically something that happens. Your data gets breached. You'll notice in those slides, I don't like reading the slides, so I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff outside of that to kind of talk about the slides. But the thing that you need to know about this is, one, there is no standard form for this. And you do have to read policies. Different policies are going to cover different things. Some of these are going to cover your paper. Some of them are just going to cover your electronic stuff. So you need to know what you've got. Oh, there's my chat box. Okay, now I can see it. Um, so you need to know the policies, and that is important. Homeowners policies have a standard policy form. Um, Business owners policy standard. Cyber is not. It's relatively new in the grand scheme of things. So there's that. Okay, so question. Put it in the question answer box. Do you know someone who has personally had a data breach? The funny thing was, I came into work yesterday, and I'd like for you to put that in the chat box so that way I can do more. One of our insurance companies is down because they no longer have. They got hacked, and we couldn't even issue any policies through the company's website. Kind of ironic that an insurance company that sells data breach got data breach and can't do anything. So that was pretty funny. Okay, so there's Caleb. He is my youngest there. He's a twin. Okay, so what's cyber insurance? Basically, what this does is it protects your company both from cyber attacks, from any of those types of things that get nasty. And we're going to dive into each thing individually. I think you'll enjoy that as we do. You'll understand a little bit more. But cyber incident privacy liability, a multimedia wrongful act. Again, keep in mind that these policies are very much different. Okay, so you might have some of these policies are going to cover the cyber incident. A lot of them will not cover the multimedia wrongful act. That is a separate thing. So you need to double check so you know what's going on, so that you know your coverages are adequate for what you need. And that's the main thing I'm going to go out. Okay, so text if you'll put something in the chat box or the question and answer box. Cyber attacks are up 400 to 500% since COVID hit. Anyone have any ideas why? Any questions? Yes. Good job. Remote workers. Yes. Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay, good. Yeah, the main thing, like y'all have said, is remote workers. So what happens is these remote workers do not have up-to-date computers. So even if you're going through a VPN, that type of thing, if they've hacked into your computer and they're sitting at home, you're going to have issues. And so we've seen a huge increase, which is changing the industry right now, of hacks. Since people at home, you've heard of Zoom bombing and those other things, the hacks are going up pretty good. Okay, so common misconceptions. So let's talk about those. It's just for big corporations. Okay, one, there's some guy in Russia acting as a little girl, sending out emails about a prince in Saudi Arabia asking for money. I mean, that's the big thing that everybody hears about. And then I only need coverage if I take credit card payments, have protected information on my computer, that type of thing. A couple of y'all are in some industries where you do have protected information, but some of y'all aren't. I mean, if you're just a little office, a retail store, that type of thing, you're thinking, why do I need cyber? And that's what we're going to kind of talk about there. Okay, so just for large corporations, the big thing is this: with the large corporations, they have a full-time IT staff, a department, or at least an IT person. These small businesses, if you're like me, we don't have a full-time IT person. Jonathan is my full-time IT person. We call him often, but we don't have the resources. So if you think that you're protected because you're small, you're not. These people are not necessarily. They do a lot of times targeting the big boys. They're sending stuff out to everybody, and the big boys get hit, the small boys get hit, but everybody's going to get hit equally. The big boys, since they do have an IT department, they know what to look for and what's going to get. I tell folks this: I think everybody's been breached. I mean, period, end of story. I think everybody's been breached. It's a matter of, have you figured it out or not? And that's kind of the way you got to think about this, because I know people have been breached on a regular basis and have everything done in place, and they're still being breached. So it just happens. The other thing to think about is when you get a cyber policy or any insurance policy, for that matter, whether it's auto, home, cyber, business policy, the limits that you have, basically you are buying insurance company to defend you. And the higher limits you have, the longer they're going to defend you, because a lot of people don't realize this, but when an insurance company says, you know what, I don't think we're going to be able to settle for less than what the policy limits are, once they settle, and they can, or even if they don't settle, they can write you a check. They can say, hey, you have $500,000 limits. Here's a check, 500,000. Go have fun with it. And they can stop defending you at that point in time. And so if you have a cyber policy is $25,000, it's better than nothing. But if they think it's going to go more than 25,000, they're going to write you a check for $25,000. Say, thanks very much. Have a great day. Our limit's ended. We're done. And so that's the thing that you got to think about is how much attorneys, how much skin do I want the insurance company to have in the ballgame? Okay. Question: do you have cyber insurance? Type that in the chat box of the Q&A. Just kind of curious on that, see who we're talking to there. Okay, next one. Here's little Sarah. She is my second youngest. Cute little thing. Okay, so there's some guy in Russia sending out emails about Prince in Saudi Arabia. Everybody's gotten those emails. But the thing is, there's people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week trying to steal your stuff. It is not just that one guy doing it. It is a massive, massive organization. The other thing that's kind of interesting is the price of Bitcoin's gone up. The reason why that's important is most of the time, if you get hacked and you get ransomware, they're going to ask for Bitcoin. So you think about the price of Bitcoin that's gone up over the past few years. You've got it doubled and tripled and quadrupled and even more so than that over the past few years. Their value is going up. And so if they can get some Bitcoin today, it's going to go through the roof. So that's a big deal. So here's a cool little infographic that I got. And this talks about just how intricate the cyber theft world is. Again, I don't think people realize it, but you think of Coca-Cola, or you think of FedEx, and you think of logistics and incorporation and different company pipelines of what they're doing, their ecosystem, their supply chain. There's a supply chain for cyber theft. It's actually crazy. So just want you to kind of show you this real quick. I mean, you've got people like access brokers, and what these access brokers do in the crime world is they help the people who make the code to hack in, and they match them with the people who want to hack in to be able to steal stuff. And so a lot of times they're acting intercourt. I mean, you think I'm an insurance broker. So if you need insurance, you come to me. I find an insurance carrier that's going to do a good job for you, and we place your insurance with an insurance carrier. These are access brokers for criminal activities. I mean, just like a normal world, you have it. It's crazy. You have the phishing kits. People create phishing kits, not the fly phishing kits, but to be able to send those emails. They create these kits and then they sell them. Just like you go onto Amazon, you go to the black web and buy these things. You've got hardware for sale. Okay. They sell custom made hardware such as ATM skimmers and that type of thing, where if you go to a gas pump, they can put this thing in the gas pump that you don't know about. When it's swiped, your credit card information is getting stolen. Everybody that goes to the gas pump that day or forever, their credit card information gets stolen. They sell these things. Okay. This counter antivirus service checkers, this is crazy. So you can send your malicious code. Oh, really? Jonathan, thank you. ATM skimmer found at a gas station in Bristol. It's all over the place. And that's a good one to know because we'll talk about that when that comes up there. But counter antivirus service checkers. So what you can do is you can send your code to these service checkers. They run it through the thing. They say, hey, great. McAfee won't catch yours, but Norton does. So, hey, you're going to get all these folks. So they know what virus detection catches this malware and what doesn't. And they run it through those to see if their code's any good. And then if they're not good enough for it, they can go down one to a malware packing services that packs the code in so that those don't find it. So if they're not good enough, they can hire someone to come in, a subcontractor, to do a little bit better job, increase their stuff, and to get in. It's crazy when you look at the entire ecosystem of this. So those are the services. Then you've got the distribution. And these are the group that run the spam campaigns that you see every time you go on Facebook, or the email campaigns, that type of thing. So they're the service provider. So don't think it's one person. They specialize in the stuff. Okay. And then you've got the cyber mule folks. Okay. And these are the people who show up to pick up money. When we'll talk about the ransomware, and it's a crazy process, but the cool thing are the uh, where's the no, I'll go back one more. There's folks that actually will go in. Thought it was listed on here, but so there's folks that recruit people for crime. So if I'm working at a school, some of y'all are in education. If I'm working at a school, I'll have people call me and say, "Hey, listen, we'll give you 10 grand if you will put a flash drive in your computer, or if you'll go into the IT place in one of the servers, if you'll put a flash drive in there, we'll give you 10 grand or 50 grand." And they're going in and they're targeting these companies to be able to get in their systems, and they pay them. So just like you get recruited in basketball, like I did, or Jonathan recruited for, I don't know, Dungeon and Dragon games or that type of thing. Um, but just like you get people recruiting, you have a headhunter service for doctors, that type of thing. They're doing that here. It's really crazy how intricate and how sophisticated this is. And that's what's going on here. Okay. So the cyber market is growing at 30% a year, which I think is kind of cool. What's happened is more people are taking coverage. They see the need. You see the hacks going on, and insurance companies are starting to increase pricing a little bit, and the coverages out there are being tightened. And a lot of it's the big boys. I mean, your $1 million policies, but you're even seeing a little bit on the small mom and pop stuff for these small folks. Um, okay, so I only need coverage if I take credit cards, and I have PHI. Not necessarily true, because the big thing that you got to run across is if you don't have a secure system, what happens is people will go in and they'll see that your system is not secure, even if you got nothing on it. And they'll actually use your system to use it to bounce and to go hack other folks. Okay, so if you've got nothing on yours, they'll go in and they'll know a company that their server was going slow. IT company came in, couldn't figure out what was going on. It just kept on getting slow. It said, need more RAM, need more RAM, need more RAM. Kept on doing that. All of a sudden, they had a different IT company come in, and what had happened is a company, well, an organization from a foreign country was dumping bad, dirty pictures on their server, had them encrypted so they couldn't see them, but they were using that as a launch point for selling bad stuff. So none of their data got hacked, but their computer was being used. And so even if you don't have stuff on there, if your computer network's open and they do that, then you've got a big time problem on the back end, because you've got a lot of liability because you didn't do what you were supposed to from that standpoint. You also have people have cell phones, data on cell phones. You know as well as I do, you log into your to Google, and all your passwords are on there. Your laptop or cell phone gets stolen, those passwords are on there. They go, they swipe, they're in your network. If you allow your employees to log in, well, even if you don't allow them, but if they log in, they get in there on Google, then their passwords are gone. So it's another thing to think and keep in mind there. Okay, so here's the nuts and bolts of it. And this is where we want to spend the vast majority of the time here. And we want to use a lot of examples because I think it comes home a lot faster if we talk about examples. So when you think about cyber, what I want you to do is think about auto insurance. Okay, real easy. So with auto insurance, you have your third party. That's your liability. So I'm in a car, I'm driving along, I T-bone somebody. If that happens, then they're going to sue me. They're going to sue me for their medical bills, their lost wages, pain and suffering, all those types of things that all your Tony Setons and Bates and all those folks are going to try to sue you for. And that's your third party. So think about that for third party as we go through this. You have your first party, which is comprehensive and collision coverage. So I T-bone somebody, I need my car fixed too. Okay, so that's my first party. It's going to pay to get my car fixed. I've got to pay a deductible, so you're going to have that, just like in cyber. But those are things, those expenses that I would incur to fix my property or things not from getting sued. Okay, and then you have your other coverages that has come along, like your medical payments, your roadside assistance, your rental car, that type of thing. And then, of course, there's exclusions on policies. There's certain things they don't pay for, and cyber's no different. So when we talk about this, if you think about it in terms of auto insurance that most everybody has and understands, I think that's going to make things a lot better. So let's get in the nuts and bolts here. of this. Okay, so put this in here. If you'll type in the Q&A. Do you think your business is more likely to have a fire or a data breach? Just I don't know I know the answer, but I'm curious. What do y'all think? Type real quick in your answer into either the questions or the other ones. Okay. Yeah. You'll see a statistic later, but most y'all said data breach. I think you're right on, and that's what statistics are going to what statistics tell us there. Okay, here's little Daniel. He is my third oldest. They say he is extremely cute and outgoing, and looks exactly like me, and I agree because I think I'm cute and outgoing as well. So there's little Daniel. We went to Parrot Mountain. It's a neat place down in Pigeon Forge. Neat place. You get to have birds all over you. You'll see a picture of my daughter, and they just flock to her. It's kind of funny. Okay, so here's the cute kids. Anytime you do video slide presentations, you got to have cute kids. So here's more cute kids here. They're holding cookie cutters. Had them do this yesterday. The reason I did that is these cyber policies, like I said earlier, are not cookie cutter. With insurance, home auto business policies, there's what we call an ISO policy, and it's a standard policy, and everybody takes that standard policy and deviates a little bit from it. Cyber is not that way. It is more like this cafeteria. You go through and pick what you want, and it's going to be a different situation each time, and all the companies are going to have a little bit different since there's nothing standard. Now they're starting to, no one's standard, there's copying each other, but but you need to know what you're getting. Okay, so you have third-party coverages. Okay, this is your network and information security liability coverage. Okay, so a couple of pro tips here are: make sure you don't have exclusions for disgruntled ex-employees. Some policies do that. And most do have an exclusion for company executives that are doing something malicious. So if you're an executive at a healthcare company, at a restaurant, at a manufacturing company, and you do something malicious, probably going to be excluded. Now, if you open up an email and it dings you up, that's not going to be excluded, but it's something going to be there. The things that are going to be done in here is your liability. It's your liability for to a third party. We talked about third party, and that's what we're talking about here. So, credit restoration is going to be part of this. Now, we're going to talk about your breach response later, but credit restoration is going to be something you got to going to have to do for them. That's something you're going to be responsible for from a third party. Reimbursement for direct losses. So the good thing about some of this is direct losses are difficult to prove, because if my data gets stolen today and we find out about it 3 days from now or a month from now or 2 months from now, as long as I don't get denied a job, a loan, or something involving credit or that type of thing, you're not going to, I can't sue you for that. I incurred no damages. So what I jokingly tell folks, if they say, oh, my data got stolen, I said, go try to buy a house, get declined, then you have damages. You wanted to buy a house, you couldn't, or try to get a job. And because there's got to be some damages there, and that's what these third-party things are. The other thing is health insurance issues. If data is stolen, then you might actually have trouble getting health care because your insurance company might think you're someone else, and now you have HIPAA issues, and so the doctor can't tell you who you are, even though you can prove, because their record is different than who you are. I mean, you're a guy, you go and they say, hey, looks like you're 6 months pregnant. Well, you're not pregnant. And so now we got issues. The doctor now has HIPAA because they don't know whose data they can't say anything. And now your health insurance might not even respond. So it's kind of interesting there. The other thing that you do have, so we talked about the mom and pop shop. They use this they use stuff as a launch pad. Okay, for a lot of the smaller businesses, they'll do that. So an example is a little mom and pop shop had their network open. It was used as a launch pad to destroy the network of an e-commerce site. Okay, so now we have damages. The e-commerce site gets shut down for 2 weeks, can't do anything. Okay. They came back and assumed they lost income, they lost reputation, so they lost future customers, and they had damages with all their data and everything. Okay. So that mom and pop shop got sued for all that. Plus, they had some fines and penalties. We'll talk about that because they weren't doing the things that they were supposed to that had their network open up. So don't think about it as, oh, it's just my customers' data. Customer data is important. But the big thing is if they use you as a launch pad, you can have much bigger issues because you think about if they use you as a launch pad and they're able to shut down Eastman for 2 days, that's a big problem. Okay. So think about it in that way. Okay. The other thing to note is human error, that type of thing, is going to be part of it as well. I hear a story a lot. You have human error where people will send 1099s out to the wrong places. Know a lot of people have done that. They send three 1099s get put in each one, and so you send out 200 of those, and everybody has everybody else's information. Now you got a data compromise issue that needs to be done. Okay. Um, and if you have questions, please ask them here. I'll try to hit them. Regulatory defense and penalties. Okay, so the thing that you need to know is these aren't just federal laws, but you have laws for each state. The thing that you get into with this is California has new laws, New York has laws about this. If I have clients here and I get breached, I have to notify based on where my client lives. So even if I've never done work in New York, I've never done work in California, I've never done work wherever, you name it. But if your client moves there, you now have to comply with those laws and with the penalties that you might incur because of violating those laws because those people now live in those states. So, I mean, you think about that's basically any business because you don't know where people have moved to. And so that's a big time issue. You've got regulatory expenses, cost to comply with injunctive relief, establish and upgrade your procedures, audit reporting, compliance costs, all those types of things are part of this regulatory defense. That's a big deal. Okay. The next one, and we also have a link here to IT governance laws, and it has all the data breach notification laws, which is really cool. They have some of the GDRP and some of the ones in Europe as well. A neat resource. Okay, so question, if you'll put it in here, is your cyber policy part of your business owner's policy or is it a separate policy? I'm curious if you even know. Put that in there, but the reason that's important is most of the ones that come standard with a business owner's policy and as an add-on are not that broad. They're decent, but they're not that broad. Actually, some of them are horrible, but they're not that broad. Okay. Now, if you're an IT company, it could be a different story because those are a little broader. But in general, they're not as broad. So if you have, you name it, a state auto, travelers, even State Farm, that type of thing, it's probably not a very good policy. It's just the way it is. They throw it in there. They give you a little bit of coverage they can actually put a lot of profit margin in there. So it's kind of an interesting way they do it. It's good. It's better than nothing. But if you're really looking for a good solid cyber, it doesn't have everything that you want in it. Okay. Here's my oldest son, AJ, growing like a weed. He's having fun. Okay. Multimedia content liability. This is a fun one. Raise your hand if y'all, any of y'all remember Adam Sandler getting hacked on Twitter. Anybody know that one? Pop in yes, no. And there, Adam Sandler was on January 2nd, got hacked and said stuff about Barack Obama, said stuff about Trump, said stuff about a bunch of folks. And Mariah Carey, a couple of days earlier, got hacked as well. Okay. So those are some things where you got your multimedia content liability, people hacking in, that type of thing. The other thing that you get is if someone gives you a bad review. So someone comes into your store, your school, you have a teacher, whatever, your organization, and they give you a 1 star. And then you type in there, hey, we understand you had a bad situation. Or you can say, hey, this person was a jerk. They left a mess in our restaurant and didn't tip us and barely even paid for our food. We gave them everything. It was a horrible situation. It wasn't any good. Yada, yada, yada. You post that onto social media as a reply on Google for replying to it, or you post on your website or whatever. That's multimedia content liability. That's where this thing comes in. Most policies are going to exclude this. So you need to make sure that you have a policy that includes this. Or I guess the big thing I want the takeaway of this is for y'all to understand what's available. And so you can make an educated choice. You might say, you know what, we don't have a social media site, we don't have a website, so I don't need multimedia content liability. And good, but at least you know what's there. And that's the biggest thing is I want y'all to know what's there, what's not there, what you need, and what you don't need, so that you can make educated decisions on your protection. Okay, PCI fines and assessment. So we talked a little bit about government regulations and fines. PCI fines are different, okay, because most policies, especially the ones that are part of the business owner policy, they're not going to cover those PCI fines. Okay, you got to buy that separately. The thing is, 75% of folks, when conducted by an outside security assessment firm, do not live up to the standards that they're supposed to on the PCI. So if you're taking credit cards, there's a charge that you're going to incur from the credit card company if you're not PCI compliant. The problem is that's just checking off enough boxes to say yes enough, where you don't get that $100 or $75 or $50 a month, whatever the fee is per month by that credit card company to be able to do it, that you're compliant. You're probably, 98% of the time, you're not doing enough, even if you've got that, to make sure that if you do have a breach, that the credit card company is not going to come behind you and say, hey, you said that you were compliant. You weren't compliant. We're getting dinged from Visa because you weren't compliant. You owe us all these fees because we're not paying them because you lied to us. And that's where you get those PCI fines and assessments. And they can be a big deal with those credit card companies at charging those types of things. So do keep that in mind as well, especially if you're using credit cards and taking those, whether it be online or whoever. And keep in mind, it doesn't matter who you're taking it with. If it's Square or an independent, which I do recommend independents, they do a much better job, generally customer service as well. But it doesn't matter. If you have not secured your network, then they're going to ding you coming back at it. So just be careful there. Okay, type in this. Percent of small businesses that have cyber insurance. What's your guess on percentage there? Give me a type. 20? What else y'all got? For those of you who are still awake. I enjoy this stuff. This is fun for me. I read insurance policies at night for fun. I know that's kind of crazy. And not just to fall asleep. I actually enjoy it. 10? Okay, good. Anybody else 35? 25? Y'all are batting around it. So you're almost there. Darn close. Come on, I know you can do it. Oh, yes, good job. We have a winner, 30%. Good job. 30% of businesses have cyber coverage. It's not that many. Basically, everybody has fire insurance for their building or their property, but only 30% have cyber. And everybody knows that you're much more likely to have a cyber claim or a cyber incident than a fire, yet no one has it, which is kind of ironic. Okay, so here's my second oldest daughter, beautiful redhead. She was having fun with those birds. It's a neat place. You put stuff and they'll walk all over your hands and everything. They're real fun over there. The big ones will bite you, so be careful there. Okay, bodily injury and property damage, third party. So this is a coverage that is available. A lot of people don't realize it's available or they even need it, but a lot of people don't need it. Okay, so bodily injury and property can be endorsed on a general liability policy. There's a couple of companies that allow that. You don't see it often. You're better off to have it on your cyber policy. So this is your liability for property damage, bodily injury, someone else. So here's the example. It's generally in a manufacturing environment. So someone hacks into a production environment for that, and they're able to override the safety system in it. And then someone sticks their hand in and gets it chopped off. Okay, so that's going to be bodily injury because that. Property damage would be a similar type of situation where generally it's in a production environment, manufacturing environment, that someone's hacking into some operation stuff, which does happen, and then people get injured. So that's your bodily injury, property damage, third party liability there. Tech E&O. Some cyber policies will include Tech E&O. Some don't. Your Tech E&O is going to be your liability for performing a technology service or a product. So you're selling You're doing setting up computers. You're like Jonathan doing setting up computers, dealing with networks, that type of thing. That's going to be there. Or you're creating code. You're developing apps and those types of things and programs. Um, that's when to discuss with your broker, because a lot of times you're going to want that separately. Um, well, you generally want that together as one, but you're talking a little bit bigger exposure, so it's going to be a little bit pricier. If you're doing just little bitty things, you can have it under basic cyber, but generally it's going to be a techie, and cyber policy that's going to be together as one. Okay, so now we get to first party coverages, and this is where a lot of your little ones do not have any coverage. Okay, so if you buy a one that's included in business owner's policy, most of them do not have. There are a couple. Um, there are a couple out there that do that, but it's few and far between. Okay, on that, so that's why a separate policy is going to be needed. If a business has, there's a question, if a business has a data compromise where they send private info to wrong email, what's the business responsible for the client? Does insurance cover this? The answer is yes. The business is responsible for the client. So you got, I'm going to answer this in two situations. So one, I'm going to say it's the business sending out. Two, it's going to be a third party sending out the information for the business. So a CPA or someone else sends the information to the wrong folks. You have notification requirements. You're going to have to notify people that, hey, your information has been compromised. Then depending on where they are, you have other notifications. How you're required to notify is it, you got to put something in the newspaper. You got to put something on a website. You got to email them. You got to put something in the mail. So it's going to determine how you're going to do that. And then in most jurisdictions, you are going to have to do any type of credit repair that they might have had, and credit monitoring for a certain number of years. Most of the time it's 3 years. My dad has been hacked by people who have hacked into Visa, have hacked into Target, have been hacked into Blue Cross, a bunch of other places, and you get free credit monitoring for 3 years, and you'd be responsible for that. And that's what the insurance policy does. By having an insurance company, you call them, they do all that for you. So you don't have to worry about, how do I do this? It's done, which makes it very nice. I mean, think about the time that you're going to have to waste to be able to do a lot of this stuff. And cyber policies, price wise, if it's part of a business owner's policy, literally it starts at $50 a year. So we're not talking a real pricey on this stuff. A really nice policy for a small business is $1,500. That's a really, really, really good policy. The price range can vary. Most of the time you're going to get what you pay for. You want something with all the coverages, it's going to be a little more expensive. I'm going to stop right here and talk about pricing because it's a good jump off point. Pricing is generally based on revenue, number of employees, and number of records. Okay, so those are the three kind of points where you rate it. They're going to have questions. We're going to talk about the questions for a security standpoint, and then your limits. If you want $1 million limits or $500,000 limits, that type of thing, that's going to be what you're looking at for pricing. So hopefully that answered that. Okay, so property in bodily injury, property damage, first party. Okay, so this is going to be where your stuff is damaged. So this will be, again, manufacturing is the biggest one. They mess up the production. They're throwing in the chemicals in the wrong way into the vat for producing it. So your product is coming out, it's all messed up. It's not right. Or it's damaging stuff because they're putting the wrong stuff in. Your machinery is getting destroyed because of that. That's going to be bodily injury and property damage first party. It's something that happens to you or your company. It's not anybody suing you, but you've been damaged. And that's what the bodily injury first party and property damage is. Again, most policies do not cover this. You got to buy that separately. It's not expensive. The problem is a lot of people just don't know that it's available. And that's if you're a manufacturer, machine shop, if you have some type of computer integration with some type of processes, you're going to need this because it's important. Okay. And again, not very expensive. The next one's going to be pollution. You have a waste treatment system of some sort at your business. And again, it's remote controlled. It's hacked in. It's supposed to release this chemical into a vat to make it where it's no longer a carcinogen. It has an agent that changes the pH or whatever in it. Well, that thing starts to mess up and starts doing it, and it actually screws up the pH. And now it leaks, and you've got pollutant you got to clean up. that's going to be a cyber claim. You don't think of pollution as a cyber claim, but that can be a pollution. I mean, there's a bunch of pollution on the internet, but this is actual pollution. So it doesn't happen a ton, but it can happen. Okay. Um, Question on this. Do you think that you're more likely to have a data breach now than 10 years ago? There you go. Jonathan says, Stuxnet did remote hack that broke production machinery in Iran. It happens. It really does. So answer this question. Do you think you're more likely to have a data breach now than 10 years ago? Yay or nay? Yeah. Man, I think we all understand the gravity of it more. We're seeing it more. It's crazy though. There's more, to some degree, there's more protection now than there was in the past, but there's also, it's a bigger business now. I think as we move on, we want to see it more because I think people are not as business owners are not as responsive to hacking. They just don't do it. Okay, so there's Abigail. So, oh, those in the wrong picture. There's one when you go there, you can get this these little cups of nectar, and then when you go into the little room, they just flock on you. It is the coolest thing. I thought I had one of those, but there's my Abigail. She's going to be going to ATSU in the fall, and we're proud of her as well. Okay, computer replacement. So, I actually had this situation happen to a client. He opened an email, and it basically locked up his computers, and it was unfixable. And Jonathan knows, he worked with them, and actually my client's cyber policy paid for new computers for the office because they had a claim and it locked up. So it replaced your computer system that are permanently impacted by malware. It can't be cleaned up, so you're thrown away and be done with it. So it's kind of crazy. Okay, so this is the big one. Okay, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this one. Funds transfer fraud. This is generally not covered. This is a line item that you have to add in almost every policy that you get. It's not included, and there's a sublimit on it as well. So even if you think, hey, my policy has funds transfer, a lot of times that sublimit's $5,000. And sometimes your sublimit deductible is half of what your limit is. So I saw a guy, they had a $10,000 sublimit for funds transfer fraud with a $5,000 deductible. Okay. Everything else in the policy was $1,000 deductible. This was $5,000. It's because it happens a lot. Okay. So one of the things to note is, I think we talked about it earlier. My mind's gone blank. Need more coffee. But with cyber, you really want a policy that's not just cyber. It's cyber and paper. Okay. Because things can happen. You dump files in it. One of your new employees dumps files in a dumpster before they shred it, and someone goes dumpster diving. That's a claim. You mail out those 1099s. That's paper. That can be a claim. If you just have cyber, obviously none of that's electronic. So if true cyber policy wouldn't cover, make sure it does cover paper breaches as well. So funds transfer fraud. Had this happen a couple times. I'll give you the most recent one. Got a client. They were doing business with another firm, and that firm wasn't doing very well. And so they were trying to help them out, and they had been funding them X number of dollars each month, and kind of upfronting their money to them before they got their product, for lack of a better term. And in order to help them out, and this was kind of, hey, can you help us out? We need a little more money this month. And they were able to help them out because they were nice folks. Well, they got a fax. Okay, they get a fax on the company's letterhead that's not doing very good, signed by the CEO of that company, that said, hey, listen, for our next payment, we've changed bank accounts. Can you deposit X number of dollars into our bank account, in our new bank account, to help us out? Well, this was not anything that was uncommon in this situation. Okay, it actually had happened regularly. I mean, they give them money, go back and forth, no issues. So my guy, was crazy. My guy takes it to CFO of the company. CFO of the company says, looks legit to me. They didn't make the phone call. That was what killed them. They didn't make the phone call. And so what happened was they wired them the $11,000. Okay. Problem is, you know, it went to Cayman Islands and went to every other country and the money's gone. Okay. So that happens. It was by fax. They were fraud. They call it social engineering. That happens. Had another client, same situation. Sent $70,000. Someone calls and said, need help with something. They said, we'll do it. They said, we'll give you a finder's fee for it. They said yes. Then they came back and said, we really don't need it, but they're going to bring you a check. Just take yours off the portion. When they bring you the check, will you send us the money? They said, sure. The check actually comes to their company, physical check for the supposed client. Okay, they look at the check. It's for X number of dollars. They go ahead and the fraudulent person calls them and says, hey, did you get the check? They said, yep. He said, since you got it, can you go ahead and just wire us the money so we can have it? Lady in the office wasn't thinking. She went ahead and wired that money. It was almost 6 digits to the other place. 3 days later, they get the check back. The check wasn't any good. They went to the bank. No good, no good. These people had actually made a fake check with the other company's logos and everything on it, had it signed by someone that would have been eligible to sign at the other company, and went through, did all that, ended up getting a lot of money. I felt for it. Again, that's funds transfer fraud. Neither one of those technically would have been data because you had a fax. You can get there. The other one's a phone call, but the social engineering, if you have a good policy, it will cover that. Some of these other ones won't because the phone call, that's not data. So is it covered? A good policy is going to give you coverage on that, which is really interesting. Okay, service fraud. If you have breaches and you get billed by your IT company or like cloud storage, say someone hacks into your Amazon and just throws gigabyte after gigabyte or terabytes onto it, and you start getting these massive bills for your hosting because someone's hacked into a cloud service or that type of thing, that's going to be there. Again, these are first-party coverages. It covers that you incur. You had to pay the bill, so it's refunding you back the money. Again, most of these aren't there. Okay, so Jonathan, we've got a question I need you to answer. Is the VPN system secure? And please define what it is. If it's not secure enough, what kind of insurance does a business need for the VPN? Does a business need insurance for printer vulnerabilities? So, Jonathan, will you talk about the VPN being secure and define what it is?
So VPN secures your data between your computer and the server. If your computer is compromised, then that doesn't do very much because you still have a compromised computer. Okay, what it does do is if you're at Starbucks and you're on the Starbucks Wi-Fi, it does mean that Starbucks is not going to be able to see whatever you're doing on that web interface or that connection back to the company server. But if you've got a virus on your computer, VPN is not going to help you. So you have to make sure that you understand what it is you're protecting when you use a software service like that. They're very good. We highly recommend VPNs.
So VPN means what? What's it stand for?
Virtual Private Network. It creates a private connection between your computer and the server or service of whatever it is that you're trying to connect to.
Okay. Yeah, great question. So basically, and that's what's happened with these Zoom things, because even if you have an encrypted connection to your company from home or a Zoom meeting or whatever, if your computer has malware on it, they can put keystroke loggers on there and they're seeing everything you're typing, even if it's through this VPN, right, Jonathan?
Yep.
So
that's exactly it.
They're going to know your password. They're going to know what website you went to get on. And they'll even know your VPN username password because they can monitor that. And so VPNs are nice, but if your computer isn't secure, you got a problem. And so that's what's happening. That's why these hacks are up 400 or 500% because people are working remotely from home. Their computers have spam and spyware all over the place. I mean, it's just stupid how much spyware is on there. That's why I recommend that pay the extra $10 a month for your employees working from home or 20 or whatever it is, and get your IT person to put some type of monitoring software on there, monitors everything, so that you don't have those issues. Because if they're monitoring it, they make sure the updates are being done, the malware's up to date, and your all that stuff's up to date. and they can monitor. So it's highly recommend that you do that. Does a business need insurance for printer vulnerability? The printer vulnerability depends on what you're printing. If you're a publisher, yes, you can have issues there. If it's just me, I mean, I wouldn't think that you need anything there but I mean, they can still come into your printer from the Wi-Fi, from their internet, and hack into stuff. But it's more of your computer being an issue. What kind of insurance does this need for the VPN? You just need the cyber, one of these cyber type policies, and that's going to protect you on the VPN side. So hopefully if that didn't answer the question, let me know. But I think we're good there. Okay. So we talked about percent of small businesses that experience a cyber incident. Type some numbers there, folks. Tell me what you got. I will say 27% of all data breaches are a result of simple negligence or employee error. It's just stupid stuff the employee did. They threw away a laptop. They left their car open and a laptop got stolen. That's what happened to Blue Cross. I think someone left the laptop in a room and it was unlocked, and they stole a couple laptops and got all the information. The answer on this one is 10%. So 10% of small businesses that experience a cyber incident. So that's actually a lot higher than a fire claim. I mean, that's a pretty heavy one. There's my beautiful bride with the parrot. We had a blast. Okay. Digital asset restoration. So someone steals your laptop and it's got data on there. You didn't back it up, which was bad thing number one. Should have done that. If you back that up, then you don't have to worry as much about that. But it's going to give you protection for the cost to restore, replace, or recreate data. So if you've got all your data in one format and you got to transfer it back into a format for use, it can be expensive having someone type in there the whole time to be able to update everything. And so that's what your digital asset restoration is going to be for. A lot of these you're looking at and you say, hey, well, it wouldn't be expensive to do that or that or that. But when they add up, it starts to be some pretty significant numbers on there. Business interruption, extra expense. Your financial loss for a breach. Okay, so if you're not doing any e-commerce and you're doing 1 or 2 credit cards a day, you're probably not going to have, I mean, there's still exposure, but probably not a big one. But if you're doing a lot of credit card work, it could be there. Now, here's the cool one. If I had a client and he shows up to his house one day and there's 2 black cars. It's never a good idea when you show up to your house and there's 2 black cars. So he walks up and the men are talking to his wife and they say, we need to talk to you. He's like, okay. And he looks at his wife and his wife's eyes are real big. And they said, we need to know what's going on at your house. And he's kind of clueless, like y'all are in the story. They said, what do you use your computer for? He said, well, it's just my home computer. We'll connect to the internet for the business and that type of thing, but we're nothing special. Why? And bottom line, they kept on asking questions. They thought he was an agent for a foreign country because a foreign country had literally put stuff on his computer and was using it to attack other countries. And so it was the FBI at his house thinking that he was a foreign agent and a foreign spy trying to do espionage from that computer. If that happens at your organization, your computers are gone and you're not going to be able to work until they finish that investigation. So business interruption, if you're using credit cards, it is a big deal. But if, again, you're the mom and pop place and you have a POS system that you're using to run your business and someone hacks in and the FBI comes and takes your stuff and you no longer have a POS system, you're going to have a loss of income. And that's what that's for. That's your loss of income, not someone else's. Ransomware, thing everybody talks about. Believe it or not, most cyber policies do not cover this unless there's an endorsement. The ones that are added to a little business owner's policy, generally excluded unless you have an endorsement. It's a big deal, okay? So I know we're about to run out of time, so I want to tell a quick story in this one. The thing that you got to realize with the cyber ransomware is it's not just the money. It's getting the money to the people, okay? Because if you go back to that infographic, we talked about the mules and how people got the money. They do a lot of things. So first of all, you got to buy the Bitcoin. And then you got to go to where they tell you to. So it was one guy was talking about how they had a ransomware issue. And what happened was they said, you got to go to this bank and you got to deposit money to this account. When they give you that deposit slip back, you got to send 4 pictures to 4 different texts of the deposit slip. Then we're going to tell you to go somewhere else. And then you're going to actually get the money back out. And then you got to we're going to send you two texts from two different numbers with pictures of the Bitcoin account that you got to put the money into to get the Bitcoin. And then you got to send us the receipt to these three. I mean, he said it was a disaster trying to do it, to get it done. And having a cyber policy, they do all that for you, okay, and help you get the money back. The other thing is they negotiate, okay. Cyber company may say, hey, we want 50 grand. The insurance company has negotiators, and they'll negotiate down to 30 grand, so you get your assets back. The other thing is even after they pay it, there's situations where they've been hacked twice, and there's two different organizations that have put ransomware on it. So they get this one done, and they think they're all set, and they can't get the data, and they go to them and say, hey, we gave you the money, we don't have the data. And they said, well, because you got someone else with ransomware. It's not just us. We released it. Generally speaking, this is funny. Generally speaking, the people with ransomware are great customer service. I mean, phenomenal customer service. It takes you a while to be able to do everything they want you to do, but great customer service, because if they don't give you it back, no one's ever going to pay them again. And so they need to make sure that when you pay them, they get the data comes back, because then they keep on doing it. If they're known for not giving the data back, no one's going to pay them. They're just going to move on, and they're not going to make any money. So kind of interesting that they have great customer service if you ever had ransomware. Breach response crisis management. This is a big expense, okay? So this is the stuff where you got to figure out where the breach came from, okay? That can get expensive. Jonathan is not cheap. There's a reason why he lives in a 15,000 square foot house and has 4 Lexuses just on Mondays. Okay? No, just kidding. But seriously, it's expensive getting these cyber people to come in and figure out where the breach came from, because they got to find out where the breach came from so you can stop it, and then find out what's going on and how much has gotten breached. Those things can be expensive. The crisis management. If you're an IT company, if you're a school, if you're a healthcare, and they found out there's a breach, you've got crisis management. You got to let people know, hey, you're safe. You got to do advertisements. We're protecting your data. You got to do all this stuff. That's your cost. The notification, those types of things, those notification costs are on you. And that's what this does. Most of the policies are going to give you some sort of breach notification cost, your breach response, and some crisis management. All these policies, everything that I've listed has a sublimit. So don't think, well, I got $1 million policy. That doesn't mean you have $1 million coverage for everything. You have some coverage, but everything's line item. So you also got to look and see, hey, what do I need? What do I have? Like we talked about funds transfer fraud. Usually that is a low limit. If you need more, you need to do it. I have clients that have $500,000 of funds transfer fraud because they have issues there. The other thing about funds transfer fraud is they can attack. If you have automated money going out to folks, people can hack, change the code, and the money's automatically going out to Cayman Islands and to other foreign countries, and you'll never see it again. Okay, so that's another funds transfer fraud. That's a little bonus for you. Worldwide coverage. Make sure you do have worldwide coverage, because if another country, the EU or another country in Europe, you get in trouble from them, you need to have coverage for that. Okay, wrapping up. If you'll email me, y'all have all my information. We'll send you our cyber risk exposure scorecard. It shows you what your cyber risk. The neat thing about that is it's going to basically tell you what questions a cyber company is going to ask you when you're getting coverage. We'll also give you our cybersecurity planning guide. It'll help you walk through, kind of go step by step on what you need to do for planning. And then we also have a cyber risk assessment for your company. And give me 1 second and I'll show that here. And this is pretty cool, because what it will do is it goes through, and this is one of the companies we use. We're a broker, so we use a bunch of different companies. But it's going to show executive summary, what you are, critical risk, medium risk, low risks, and then vulnerabilities. It's a neat report. It's 23 pages long that goes through. It's not the end all be all, but it's a nice report. I think I'm done. Let me do this. There's me. There's my email. And then you can go to our website. You can go to my site, the cyber portion of the site. You can put your information there, and I'll get that there as well. Last question. Are businesses liable for clients for data compromises they make, whether the client is harmed or not? The answer is yes and no. So they are responsible for notification and monitoring, okay? even if the client's not harmed. So if data gets breached, but no one has we talked about, or I couldn't get a job, or I couldn't get a car or a house or whatever because I couldn't get a loan or a health issue. If none of those happens, they're not liable in that way, but they are liable for the notification and those types of things. So yes, client have to prove harm. Yes, well, the person suing is going to have to prove harm, but if they sue, you still got to defend yourself to prove that they didn't get harmed. And insurance covers that. Lastly, it happens if business does not have insurance, it's coming out of their pockets. This is not an expensive coverage, guys. We've got companies and it's a very small portion of their insurance budget. Very small portion. So hopefully that was good. I'll go if there's anything else y'all need from me, but thanks for letting me talk. I like a lot more interaction. I hope I did well enough for you guys, but there's that. Shoot me your email. Shoot me an email. I need your domain name, like ours is veritasfirm.com. Domain name. Shoot me an email. I'll be happy to send that stuff over and answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I think you've done a great job of answering the questions as you went along. Are there any other questions before we close out? Okay, well, if not, it's been another great session. We remind you all that we will be back again in another 2 weeks and hope that you can tune in with us. This session is being recorded, so the link will be available if you'd like to go back and listen to that later. It will be posted on the Virginia Community Capital website. Andrew, thank you again very much. We appreciate all the great information you've given us today. It's been outstanding.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for letting me do it.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great weekend.